Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to stand here and have the opportunity to do a response to the throne speech. If you'll allow me, I'd like to take a little while and walk you through a 3-decade period of history that brought me to be standing here at this very desk in this legislature. A 3-decade period that has me arriving here as the proud representative of the fine folks of the Albert riding, a proud Minister of the Crown representing energy and resource development, and somebody who stands here incredibly proud of our Premier, and I stand here to speak in approval and in approval of the throne speech as he had delivered. Now, I have the opportunity to stand and speak about many things, and I am going to cover a number of topics, and I'm going to weave through a number of different roads. There's a number of people that are responsible for me being here. I've got thank yous a mile long, and I will go through each and every one of them. But before I do that, there's one person who I wish to extend a special thank you to, not my family, not a friend, not somebody I went to school with, but I would like to recognize very particularly the member for Riverview, Mr. Bruce Fitch. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, allow me an indulgence of that. I met the member from the Riverview riding a number of years ago. I was very proud to be involved in some of his early campaigns, and I experienced a mentorship from him that taught me so much and allowed me to learn and study and work. He helped me during many times when I served as an executive assistant, although I didn't work directly for him. He is my MLA. I'm very proud to call him much more than a friend, and I want to thank him personally for the investment he made in me that allowed me to stand here today. So that's where the thank yous begin. The thank yous will continue, though. I'd like to go back to 33 years ago. 33 years ago, I had the opportunity to walk through that door right there as a student on a tour of the Legislative Assembly. It was an absolute incredible moment for me. I was 15 years old, and no one would ever accuse me of making very smart decisions at 15 years old. But one of the best, most impactful, incredible things I ever did was walk through that door. Because during that period of time, it was almost mystical when I walked through this door. There was something incredibly somber, yet important about this legislative chamber. It doesn't look a lot different than it did back then as I remember it. There was no TV cameras and nothing was digital, but the hall that we stand in remained the same. And what struck me at that time when I walked through the door here, at 15, I can't believe I had such a cognizant moment of thought, but I realized that every law, every legislation, every motion, everything that affects the way we live our lives in New Brunswick from the time of Confederation was dealt with right here on the floor of this legislature. Sometimes with complete agreement, many times with a lot of consternation and debate and argument. But at the end of the day, the speed limits we have, the laws we abide, and the rules that govern our lives came from right here. And each and every one of us sitting here every day with every motion we put in are contributing to that fabric of the province. That never left me from the time I walked through that door. Now, 33 years is a long time to be standing here, and many things happen along the way. Several times along that process, I felt like that dream would never become a reality. I came close, but I had given up on the fact that I would ever be standing here as a member of the Legislative Assembly. So that's going to fast forward down the road in my talk to explain why we're here today. But that entire time, from the time I was 15 years old, I was conscious of what goes on here in this House, which is why the climate of a minority government is so important. I have remembered things from 30 years ago in the last 3 months that I had all but forgotten. Because with a majority here and a majority there, there's a lot of things that can get snowplowed into the corners and you don't have to think about. I would agree that everybody from every political party has had to pay very close attention to the way this place works in the last couple of months. And I think that's to the better of the legislature, to the better of us as elected officials, and also for the betterment of the province, because as we move forward in this government, as this throne speech outlined, we need a path to tomorrow, and without the collaboration of each and every party, we're not going to get there. And I think that the people of the province of New Brunswick that put all 49 of us in these chairs spoke very loud and clear. Get to work and figure it out. The member from Miramichi spoke of that in her speech, and I thought that was incredibly important. Her, like myself, are new members to the Legislative Assembly, and we were given instructions to go to work. And although I have been around the political process for a long time, and I've seen politics done very differently, I'm very encouraged at the parameters that we're seeing come forward here. And it's not one person. Mr. Speaker, it's not the chair that's forcing us to do it. You know, we're in a situation where if we are going to govern, we have to. Now, some of us enjoy that, some of us don't. Some of us don't understand all the nuances and complexities to that. But at the end of the day, we are being stretched and brought into places that we never have been before. And I, for one, humbly hope that I can put aside my biases, my partisanship, my fiery nature at times, to look to the greater good of the province of New Brunswick and serve in a collaborative team where the borders between sides of the legislature are blurred. That's my hope. So, the process that we're involved in now as an MLA is not necessarily what I'm used to or was experienced with or what I had seen in the past, but I'm very encouraged. The path that led me here led to me being elected in the Albert riding. And I just want to take a few moments and say some special thank yous. A lot of folks in the Albert riding, but particularly first and foremost, I'd like to say a thank you to my father and mother. They're from Miramichi. And standing as a member of the Legislative Assembly and a minister of the Crown is probably not something that they figured I'd have on my resume at many points during my life. So I'm incredibly proud to be standing here representing the job they did raising me, because the mistakes I made are on me. They gave me the foundation and the basis, and I'm fortunate that it took me a few decades to get to that point, but I'm living out the rules and the character that they had taught me back then, and I'm so proud to be reflected that in my career now as a member of the Legislative Assembly. I hope to honor them with my work because of what they did for me growing up. I've got 3 grown children. I'm so proud of them. One of them, Mike Jr., lives here in Fredericton. He's got his career. He's through university and he's doing well. My middle son Jacob's 20 and he works. He's through school, works in Riverview. And then I've got my youngest, Madison. She's 18, and I'm so thrilled and happy for them. My partner Allison lives in Fox Harbour, Nova Scotia, and we have an incredibly close relationship, and despite the fact that we live in different provinces, and she has been the reason why I could even get to the point of running for office, because with the long distance being there in the first place, if she didn't give me the 110% support that she did, I would never be able to devote the time to running to be a member of the Legislative Assembly. Interesting little sidebar, during the swearing-in ceremony, all of the things, the history, the 33 years, being here, it all kind of fast-forwarded when we were sitting there for the swearing-in. And it was a very powerful moment for me. I was so proud to be sitting there as an MLA. Oh, geez, where's the Kleenex? Member from Shipagoo, Miskin. I'll tell you why that chokes me up a little bit is when I was sitting here, there's a Kleenex. Is it used? Give me the whole box. I don't trust that. That chokes me up a little bit because while I was sitting here, I used to be an executive assistant. And as most of us know, executive assistants sit up in the gallery right over here. And it's a wonderful ceremony. There's all kinds of incredible people here. And my daughter was sitting in the spot where I sat. So that was pretty cool, I gotta say. And she told me that, get ready, someday she'll be right here. So, and it's of note, the Albert riding is the first riding that in the history of the province of New Brunswick elected a female MLA in the form of Brenda Robertson way back in the day, 1967. She'll tell stories about how somebody had to stand outside the men's washroom when she was here because there were no ladies' facilities. And she was as tough as any 3 MLAs put together. And an amazing, amazing lady that's regaled me with stories over the years of what it was like to come up in a male-dominated legislature. She paved the way. So maybe it's prophetic. Who knows if it'll ever take place. But if my daughter wound up sharing the distinction of standing here someday, I would be quite proud of that. And I think we all should be encouraging the next generation to see the regality of this place and to see it for the incredible, the word's escaping me right now, but the somber's not the right word, but reverence, the reverence of this hall. You know, they see the theatrics of politics where we go back and forth, right? And you know what, we do that back and forth, and that's what people see. I think we should take time to talk to our children and talk to the next generation and explain and try to impart that DNA on them, that this is an important place. And to be a part of this on either side, in any corner, and with any party, that's a pretty important job. And if we have folks that are growing up with the desire and the dream to be MLAs like us, and they build that over the course of years and years, hopefully like I did, then we have people that are very thankful to be in these seats. And if people are very thankful to be in these seats, you're going to see a hard day's work for a good day's pay. And that's what the province of New Brunswick is expecting from each and every one of us. And I've had a chance over the last few months, actually over the last few years, working as an executive assistant. I've gotten to know, prior to the election, just about everybody in our caucus, a significant amount of people in the Liberal caucus. Since this election, I've had a chance to meet people in the People's Alliance caucus as well as the Green caucus. And you know what? People are so different, they're exactly alike. And when the specter of politics goes away, and when we can sit down over a coffee and talk about files, or talk about issues, or talk about departments, you know, we're all on the same page a lot of times. And I think that this legislature is going to produce the most productive government that we have seen in most recent history. I'm very proud to be part of that. I'm sure the members opposite in all corners share and would agree with me on that. So, one thing I want to do, when I choked up there, okay, not to bring any kind of spotlight back on my emotional nature, but that's not the first time this building, this place, the work we do has caught me emotionally, created that lump in my throat, the sting in your eyes. Now, I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And I know we've got some more emotional members in the House as well. And the immense responsibility, or whatever the reason, there's a lot of things that can trigger that emotional nature. This is not a job. Not just a job. And it is not a joke. It is something that when you realize the mantle of leadership that you put on your shoulders and you step out here, it can choke you up. And to the members of all parties who have felt that, good. For the members of all parties who haven't, find it. Because you have to have something that's driving you as you do this. Because you can punch in and punch out at some jobs and get away with bare minimum effort. But we can't. We can't. We don't have that luxury. Because we have employers every election term that are going to grade us on our performance at work. Now I want to go back into the Albert riding a little bit and talk, because my campaign for nomination and my campaign for election was based on a very simple principle. I put on almost 40,000 kilometers within the Albert riding looking to get elected. Sorry, correct that. I told people that I did not want to get elected to a position, but I wanted to be hired to do a job. And for the first time in a long time, that resonated with the voters in my riding. Because one thing I heard loud and clear, and members from all over the House may affirm this, but I heard this more than once. I heard that they were sick and tired of all of us, regardless of which political party. You guys are all the same. You guys are this, you guys are that. So I realized very quickly that I was passionate about being an MLA to represent the Albert riding. So I had to bring that to people. I had to deliver that message in a way that could be heard, understood, and respected. So I came up with that tagline. I don't want to be elected to a position. I want to be hired to do a job. And you know what? They hired me. And they can fire me. That's why I express so much how important it is for us to remember that we can skate by. MLAs have over the course of the history of this province. You know, some people say politicians are a dime a dozen, and a good one's hard to find. Well, be the good one, you know? And I catch myself all the time, catching myself with personal disciplines and all sorts of things that will eat in and creep at my effectiveness and make me that good MLA. But I remember walking into this place for the first time whenever that happens. And I correct the drift and I move forward in a way that I feel the people in my riding would be proud of. I want them to be proud of me, and they will be if they see that kind of work ethic reflected on their behalf. In the Albert riding, have you ever been there, Mr. Speaker? It's a phenomenal riding. It's a huge riding, as other members here have large ridings. I know I joke with the member from Riverview. His riding is right directly in the middle of mine. And when I hear him complaining about a long day of driving around the riding, I tell him we need to just do a reality check here, because I need to pack a lunch to go from one end of my riding to the other, and he can do his on a bicycle. So everything being said, the Albert riding is huge, and it spans 2 counties and a significant amount of municipalities, but an amazing piece of the province of New Brunswick. I mean, you've got Fundy Park, a world-class tourist destination. Last night I was meeting with the Albert County Tourism Association, the Albert County Chamber of Commerce, and the Friends of the Fundy Park Guild. And they were talking about a vision for making the Albert riding, Albert County, making it an example for the rest of the province. And you know, I get excited about that, because I'm proud of my roots. I've come from the Miramichi. I grew up on the good side of the river. And whenever anybody asks me what side was that, I'll say, what side did you grow up on? And we always have a little joke on it. But I grew up just outside of the Chatham area on a beef farm. So I've known rural life in the province my whole life. And then I moved to Albert County. And as somebody, and as the members in this house that live and grew up in a rural setting, only those people can understand. You know, we see the cities getting all the press, and we need them. And they drive a lot of the economy, and they drive a lot of factors that make New Brunswick successful. But the rural parts of the province in New Brunswick are the shoulders that these cities stand on. I mean, rural New Brunswick can be a driver of the economy. That throne speech talked about creating opportunities and finding ways to go into these areas, invest in them, and make them everything they can be. For example, like I said last night, when I'm meeting with the Chamber of Commerce in Albert County, and they're talking about creating tourism corridors. Have you ever been to Alma in the summertime? Pennsylvania, New York, Ontario, Quebec, there's hardly a New Brunswick license plate lining the streets. So the tourism industry is alive and well. It's right at the base of Fundy Park, that world-class tourist destination. And you know, I've spent summers in the restaurants and in the businesses in Alma, and the owners there are world-class entrepreneurs. They could rival Bay Street any day of the week. And I've really gotten fired up sitting down talking to the ladies and gentlemen in Alma about how they can build on that and make that even more of a tourist destination, and sharing ideas. And they're saying that we support you as our MLA, you support us as entrepreneurs. You know, you come in a little bit further, you've got Riverside Albert, the Albert County exhibition, one of the last exhibitions in the whole province of New Brunswick that still has an agricultural component to it, a 4-H component to it. You know, petting zoos, 8-in-hand horse pulls and all that stuff. You know, the county fair was the cornerstone of what this province was built on. Back before we had all of the connectivity that we have now, you came out in the fall to show your wares, and you were proud of the red ribbon you got at the Albert County Fair. That tradition is still alive, and it's growing, actually. The facilities are growing. I want to invest in that. There is employment opportunities there. There is tourist opportunities there. You know, then you carry on a little bit further, and we've got our provincial park in the Hopewell Rocks, in the form of Hopewell Rocks. Another absolutely stunning and world-class tourism venue. You know, I've had a chance to bring the Minister of Tourism to the Albert riding. We had a great drive through there. We did it unofficially. There wasn't any big fanfare, but I just wanted to, one minister to another, show exactly what the opportunities are down there. And it's spectacular. So within a half an hour, you've got a national park of world-class quality, a provincial park that has thousands and thousands of visitors, employs people, and when I met with them before the election, they're talking about ways that they can increase the opportunity there. That's amazing. We've only covered a half an hour of the riding. We carry on back in through to the village of Hillsborough, which the village of Hillsborough has been historic since before Confederation. When the Steves family arrived, other families arrived. The Acadians have history there. In fact, the village of Riverside Albert is erecting on August 16th, 2019, they're erecting a monument to Acadia. You know, little old Albert County is showing that they have an opportunity to be a destination for all cultures to come to. You move in. I also cover a certain amount of the east end of Riverview. It's a wonderful, growing community where it feeds the surrounding and greater Moncton area. Families have realized that Riverview is an amazing place to put down roots, to grow a family, to have access to services. You know, fair taxes. It's a great spot in that area, and it's growing. There was something like, there's one particular area where there's over 1,000 building permits have been issued in a very short period of time. It is a great place to grow and to be a part of a vibrant community. Now then we skip over Riverview proper, and then we have a chance to move into Salisbury. Another spot where I've lived in Albert County for over 30 years, and Salisbury was always a spot. Like, we didn't have Facebook back then, so we used to drive out to the K&B Takeout and sit there. We used to have a 1980 Monte Carlo, and we'd sit out there and you'd wait, and your news feed drove by you, is what happened. That's who you knew who was here and who was there, and you'd sit and wait, and somebody would come by, and that's where you found out where the get-together was that evening and whatnot. So those are very fond memories for me of the village of Salisbury. And you've got business owners. I've got a friend in Salisbury that's been working a business there for 20 years as a pizza mill. We started out working in a warehouse together, hard hat and work boots. And you know, he always had a dream to make a successful, thriving business. We were talking the other day that he didn't go to Moncton to do it. He didn't go to Toronto to do it. He did it in the village of Salisbury, and I'm so proud of him. Dave, my buddy Dave. And so we were reflecting on the last 30 years that we spent growing up and coming up through that area. And it's a spot where a business can set up roots and can grow. Something that the village of Salisbury is doing that's absolutely amazing that not many people know. They've got an incredible waterfowl viewing park. From what I understand, there's something like almost 70 different species of animals, wildlife, birds, reptiles, whatever, right in Salisbury. It's got a 1 kilometer track where you can walk around, and I know that my partner Allison is a wildlife photographer, and we went out there one day, and she snapped over 1,000 pictures. I thought it was just a great little walk and a spot to have a coffee, but her being a nature photographer, she said, this is a gold mine. You know, I thought, that's amazing. That's in my riding. They built the Highland Park, an incredible spot. They're doing a second annual tree lighting here this weekend. I won't be able to be there, but I will miss it because it was an amazing spot where the entire community comes out. And that's the thing that you don't get in the larger communities. Every one of these events are such that the whole community comes out. Now I can leave Salisbury and skip through the Minister of Agriculture's riding for a short little bit, and then I'm in Elgin. I don't know if anybody from the southeastern New Brunswick area has been in Elgin before, but the Gordon Falls, the Gibson Falls, the Paulet River, there's some amazing scenery there. And I remember 30 years ago, 20 years ago, no, it was 30, actually more than 30 years ago, that we would go there and there's actually 30-foot cliffs you can jump off into pools. And I remember this summer during the campaign, I was driving through Elgin and I just took a moment to relax, and I went out to the Paulet River, and it was amazing to see that water go through this beautiful river. And then I went up to those falls and I looked and I thought, I don't know how I ever jumped off those 30 years ago. Thankfully that it's not that much of an attraction anymore. So, but it's beautiful. And it's been bringing people for years and years. And if we invest properly in our rural economy, our tourist economy, then it'll continue to flourish. You know, there's all through the back country I haven't mentioned, over Caledonia Mountain, there's too many places to mention in there. And through that period of driving almost 40,000 kilometers, I had a chance to meet some people that didn't just work on my campaign, but I fell in love with them. They were amazing people. I want to give out a shout out to a couple of people. There's too many people to mention. I'm going to blow it, but there's two ladies, one from Lower Coverdale and one from Salisbury. Their names are Shirley Morrissey and Rita Carson. These two ladies, they're seniors, they're retired. And Mr. Speaker, if I was to run another campaign and you said, I've got a room full, 25 people that want to work for you, or you can take these two senior citizen ladies, I would tell the 25 people to go home and I would take them all day long. They sat through this campaign, well, long before the campaign. You know, when people get behind you and they tell you they support you and they love you and they cook for you and they make sure that you've eaten, and when, you know, that care that they provide goes a lot further than just wanting you to win the election. These are people that have faith in you and they have hope for you. And so to Shirley and to Rita, I can't say enough how important they are to me. I hope that mentioning them on the floor of the legislature it does justice to what they have done for me. I don't think it does, but I will probably continue to mention them many years from now. I also have had the chance to take mentorship from the former MLA of the Albert riding, Mr. Wayne Steeves, former Minister of Public Safety. He had quite a history in the world of politics over the years. Not unlike myself, he started out as an executive assistant. He started working for the former Minister of Agriculture, Mac McLeod, way back. He worked also for Mr. Corbett, and he came up through the ranks like me, carrying the lunchbox and the umbrella and making sure stuff got done. You know, executive assistants, regardless of what time of history they did it, we all can relate to that job being a very important job. And so Wayne and I connected at that when I started working his campaigns for a number of years ago. He subsequently ran for the Progressive Conservative Party and lost. And then he did it again and lost. And then he ran again and won. Now I could tell you this right now, from having run and won, that's tremendous. But I don't know if I would have had what it takes to do what Wayne did, to run, to lose, and then to come back and say, I'm going to go at this again. I'm going to continue to work, and I'm going to continue to do this. Not once, not twice, but third time's the charm, and then he held the position for almost 15 years. And there's a lot of people that would speak to the work that he had done during his period of time as an MLA and minister. And I'll tell you what, I don't take that for granted. So having his counsel is much appreciated. Almost more importantly is the counsel of his wife, Tanya, because I don't think he would have been able to do half of the things that he did if it wasn't for her. They're currently right now, I think they're somewhere in Europe enjoying their grandchildren. So hopefully we can all look forward to a retirement someday in this world. But my campaign manager was John Williston. I knew him from growing up with the Miramichi together. He's younger than I am. But I knew when I was running this campaign there was so much on the line that a silver medal wasn't going to do it for me, Mr. Speaker. I told you that this was a 33-year dream, and when I finally had the opportunity to do it, I wanted to set the balance in place so that I would win. So I went and chose the best people I could to build the campaign. Because MLAs don't win their elections. It's the team of people that come around them. And I've very rarely ever seen MLAs that can say that based on their efforts and their efforts alone, they've won. You know, some may think they have, but it's a team. And I've worked as a campaign volunteer for many years, and I know the hard work that's involved. And so when I chose John Williston as my campaign manager, I could not have been happier for what he brought to the table. He took our riding from a more old-fashioned way of doing things to providing us with a 21st century quality campaign. I will never be able to thank him enough for that. And I want to make sure I certainly thank him. And I actually would like to apologize to him, because I don't know, Mr. Speaker, if anybody else can relate, but during a campaign, sometimes the candidates become a little difficult to deal with. And I want to say a special thank you to John as my campaign manager, because there are times when I can be high maintenance, and I know he had to put up with a significant amount of times. And when I got the text message that said, "Have a good night, we'll talk in the morning," I knew it was time for me to stand down, because I had probably gone just a little too far. But you know what? He was always there first thing to continue the conversation, just like nothing happened, and to put me on the course to winning a decisive victory in the Albert riding. So for that, thank you hardly seems enough, but that's what I expressed to my campaign minister, Mr. Williston. And you know, all that led to us getting to the point where on September 24th, the province of New Brunswick elected a government. We didn't even know what it was on September 24th. I mean, if all of us were honest, we wouldn't say what we had at that point. You know, is it like a hockey game where the most goals wins? Is it not? Is it the legislative process? And this is what I talked about earlier. We all experienced quite an education in parliamentary procedure and legislative process. But on that night, we knew that the voters delivered a government that was going to be different than any other government. And since then, I've had members from the Liberal Party meet with me. I've met with members from the Green Party. I've met with People's Alliance members as well. And I had a chance to experience that start to the foundation of what we're talking about. What was illustrated with the path to a better tomorrow in Premier Higgs's throne speech. And I feel confident that the combination of what we have here in this legislature, the skills, the talents, and the abilities, plus a desire to get things done, will deliver results. During the campaign, we talked about real experience and real results. And ultimately, at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, that, above all else, is what we will be judged by. When the time comes, whenever that is, when we wind up being back in a situation where we're going to go to the voters again, mark my words, there's one thing and one thing only that they're going to want to know, and the measuring stick that they're going to hold us to, and that is, did we get results? So, all that being said, at the end of the day, I've hopefully shared my passion for how honored I feel to be standing here in the legislature. How thankful I am for my family and the people around me who are the reason that I'm here. Those that have gone before me, that have mentored me, those that I call colleagues and friends right now. I spent some time talking about the emotion of the legislature, and I implore each and every one of us as we go forward from this, whether the throne speech has everything in it that you want, whether the throne speech has aspects to it that you can't abide by. Regardless, what we're talking about doing is capture that emotion of the fact that every time we walk through these doors, we are charting the course of political history, and we need to do it together. Mr. Speaker, if we can do it together, whenever we go back to the polls, regardless of what type of a government is returned to this legislature, we've left everything on the field, and we're going to put a government together that makes New Brunswick proud. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.